Hi, I'm Lou Marquez for the International Training and Research Center. I'm here with Andrew this morning, and we're going to go through the process of learning how to fit a bowling ball for his game. We're going to take him out onto the lanes, look at his athleticism, and then come on back into the pro shop and get an idea of actually how his flexibility is so we can actually program that into the actual fitting process. We'll be measuring his fingers, looking at the elasticity of his joints, and just going through the process that we do here every day for the ITRC. So Andrew, a couple of things that I want to find out a little bit about you and your athleticism and stuff like that. You look like you work out. But one of the things that I want to do is look at if we had any injuries in the past. That's one of the questions that I've asked any bowler that comes into the ITRC, whether they have injuries that we have to work around or kind of look at some things that they might be doing that requires some medication and things like that. So one of the first things is, you know, have you ever bruised your hand? Have you ever hurt yourself? Have you ever strained it?
No. As far as I know, this is just no injuries on this hand. No.
Everyday activity.
Everyday activity.
Like that.
That's right.
Do you do anything outside of in your physical activity that you use your hand strength for a lot, like gym work or something like that?
Besides gym work, maybe lifting weights. That's about it.
Okay. So we're doing a lot of exerted force with the hand.
Right.
So what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually go through the process of just measuring each joint, and we're going to measure you up for a fingertip. So I'm really more concerned about the first two joints, but really more in that first joint.
Okay.
And what I'm looking for is the amount of tension in through the tendons and the little small muscles in the joints, you know, kind of like these little pulleys area that your tendons ride in, and just kind of get an idea of how far it will bend under a force. So, you know, I'm not trying to break your finger.
Right.
People may think that that's the process, but we're actually just looking at the limitations of how much it moves.
Okay.
So we'll take a note as to that angle, what that is.
And that affects the grip overall, just the
That affects
the
your grip because every person is different in how they grasp an object.
Right.
But we're limited to the amount of force that we can actually bend these joints.
Okay.
You know, we don't want to actually drill the holes of a bowling ball in a certain angle that is beyond the natural flexibility of the hand,
motion. Okay.
the range of motion. So what we have to take in consideration is what is that range and how does that affect your style and any injuries that might happen down the road. So what we want to do is prevent that. So we're just looking for the limitations. Going to jot that down. So there, I've got an idea. I'm going to jot these down so I have an actual track record of this process, but this also helps me further down the road.
Yeah.
So if you have an injury, we can at least understand where you were, where you need to be at that moment, and then kind of keep this kind of in a running progress going forward.
Gotcha.
Okay.
And does that elasticity in those joints, does that change over time? Something that you keep track of?
Yeah, we do. That's one of the things that, you know, either through age or injury, we might not be as flexible.
Okay.
Also, medication has a lot to do with that too. We may have medications that force our body chemistry to change over time, like blood thinners and things like that. And the amount of size can be affected. So even from morning to afternoon to evening, or if you're actually bowling excessively over a longer period of time, you'll notice some swelling and things like that as your hand gets a little bit more acclimated to the actual fit.
Okay.
So we have to accommodate for these things, and we have to keep record of them.
Okay.
That's important. Okay. So we've done the fingers. We kind of an idea there, just making sure that the range of motion and the joints all the way up. Is there any pain in there when I do that?
No.
Nothing?
No pain.
Okay,
no
good.
Nothing.
So that's one of the things we want to make sure that there isn't some pre-symptoms of, like, say, carpal tunnel and things like that.
Okay.
So the next thing I'm going to do is going to measure the elasticity of your thumb. And what I'm looking for is the range of motion. How much will it move under a slight bit of tension?
Okay.
And look at that angle, because that's important to the pitch of the thumb angle based on the span of your hand.
Gotcha.
Okay? So we're going to look at that and jot that down. And that's important as well, because a lot of times that's a key to how much force you're going to actually apply. If I pitch that ball too much, where you're forced to put a lot of grip pressure onto it, actually that could actually raise the amount of tension in the upper arm, so in your forearm and in your biceps. And sometimes you'll hear people that say, hey, I've had injuries in the past, like a funny bone kind of injury or tennis elbow kind of thing. And if they're bowling and it's contributed by bowling, sometimes that could be the ball and the pitch angle, not necessarily what they're doing wrong, but the actual angle of those holes.
Interesting.
Okay? So it's important that we know. Okay, now the last thing that I want to do into this fit and really understanding the actual pitches that I'm going to be utilizing for your grip is what is the lateral pitch of this thumb. So we're going to look at the muscle group here and see what the limitations are. So what I'm going to do is kind of mimic the contour of a bowling ball, and I'm just going to press here to kind of just keep that in place. Now I don't want to move your whole entire thumb forward because that's not really how we grasp a ball.
Okay.
It is more laying flat, like you're palming it.
Yeah.
So what we want to do is just hold right there and just kind of look at where the pressure stops. And we can kind of get an idea based on that angle of the thumb, how much lateral movement we need to preset into that pitch.
Okay.
So, and you're very flexible, so that's pretty good. You're a new bowler, so you don't come with all the different lumps and bumps that new bowlers tend to have over time. But, we want to make sure that we're aware of certain things. And we also want to look at size of thumbs. That's important too. Whether you have a long thumb, medium-sized thumb, average-sized thumb, or a short thumb. These are important to adjustment, those final fitting adjustments to the pitch. So fairly flexible. So I got some good information. And this will lead us now into actually measuring the hand for the span. So there's a lot of good stuff there that you got. So
awesome.
Okay.
I appreciate it. Thank you.